Hey guys, welcome back to our final video. This is going to be our hatch day video. So we're going to be watching some chicks hatch, and then we are going to be pulling our chicks out of the incubator, getting them all set up in their brooder and making sure they have good food and water. And then we do a little bit of tricks with our water to make sure that we have a good healthy chick, and then they start off better and stay healthier longer. Alright, here we go, guys. The first of the chicks to emerge from their shells. I had probably about 9 or 10 pips last night on day 20. And then this morning on day 21, about 8 or 9 chicks are in the incubator right now. And they're all getting their footing and getting fluffed up. The only bad thing about this incubator is the fluff sticks to the plastic, so then it can be a little hard to see through. But you can see them in there. They're doing really good. Here I was able to get a couple of them hatching. So this one is a very good example of what zipping is like. So you can see that it just zigzags across that shell until finally it's able to lift the lid and push out. And remember, this process does actually take quite a while because it takes a lot of strength for this little chick to be able to do this. So this is actually super sped up. So when you're watching chicks hatch, it is kind of like watching paint dry. It does take quite a while. So now we have a lot of chicks that have hatched. And the problem with this incubator, the only thing I don't love, is this double pane. As soon as your chicks start hatching, it starts filling with chick down and fuzz. So it just makes it a little harder to see on camera, but you can see through it with your eyes just fine. It's just a little fuzzy because of all the chick feathers. But we're going to get these guys out and do a count so far. Got the brooder all set up. We start our chicks on paper towel. That way they can get their footing under them. We don't have any leg problems. And then that way they can also get accustomed to the food and water before there's pine shavings to play with. So we'll replace that paper towel as soon as they have their food and water established. And yeah, here we go. Let's put some chicks in here. Let's go get these guys in their brooder. Okay, so we just pulled these 24 chicks from the incubator, and there are several others that are in the process of hatching. We have this special chick, and I've actually dealt with this before. It's not very big of a deal, but this is a vitamin E / selenium deficiency, and so all I just need to make sure that he drinks some waters with vitamins in it, and he'll be good as new. So we got some vitamin E in our water, and we'll just make sure he gets some good drinks, and he'll be just fine. Well, 11 more came home from work, and I knew there was a few in there last night. Today is day 21. Future Kimber jumping in to correct myself. I meant it's the night of day 22. So all of the chicks that I pulled out of the incubator this morning, and then after work, I think those were the final ones to hatch. So we are going to go ahead and look at these last 5 eggs that didn't hatch real fast and see if we can make any determinations on them. See if we have any pit marks. We can listen really carefully or candle them again to see if we have any movement, and then make a determination whether they're still viable or not. So what I do first, before I candle them or anything, I just listen for movement. And sometimes I'll tap it. No movement. Okay. And then next we're going to candle these and just make sure that we don't have any movement. And if I've determined that all of them are not viable, I'm going to just open up just the very end and just look inside to see if I can decide how long they developed for before they gave up. So this one still has a good air cell, but I'm looking really close and I don't think I see any movement in this one at all. So I think this one for sure is done. This one looked like it did make it quite a ways, but same thing, we have a kind of dark ring right here. So yeah, I think this one is done too. Oh wow. This one made it quite a while. Oh yeah. So you can see, you can kind of see through this one. Okay, well, let's open these guys up and see where they stop developing. Okay, so opening eggs up can be a little bit sad. I find it sad when I have a lot that haven't hatched. When it's just a few, it's more of like educational. It's kind of like I'm dissecting the egg to figure out what possibly went wrong with it. So that's what I'm doing with these 5. I kind of am curious. They looked like they were pretty developed, but I just am going to peek inside and see if I can determine at what stage the embryo may have given up. So I always just use a pair of tweezers. I find it pretty easy to get through the shell, so I just tap it like that, and then very gently we're going to peel away a little opening, because we don't need to crack the whole thing open. We just need to see into the top. Alright, so I don't know if you can see inside this very well, but from examining inside the shell, this chick either passed like right before hatch day. If you look inside, you can see the fully formed chick in there. I can even see a leg right here, and so that's where the foot, you can see the foot coming up and curling over. But I don't see where his beak would have come up to pierce the surface. So his beak would be coming around and up through one of these gaps right here. Future me just jumping in to say I think this chick had just stopped developing early enough that it hadn't had the time to get into position. Well, let's see about this one. Okay, so this one's way less developed. There might be a little bit of feathers, but it's actually so less developed. I think that it probably stopped developing way earlier than the first chick, and it just went unnoticed. So I will say to my viewers that there is a slight smell with this one that I did not have on the first one. So that indicates to me that this one has been undeveloping for a little while in that incubator. So this one could have been pretty much a stink bomb if it were to have exploded in our incubator. So, but we got lucky, because sometimes these ones will fill completely and then explode. But that one, way less development. Okay, let's see about this one. So pretty similar to the first chick. I can see feathers and I can see the kind of the body, but I don't see the head, and I don't see the leg like the first one. So this one was probably a couple days shorter than the first one. It to me looks like it gave up that last few days before hatch, because it's just not quite as big. So again, we have some development, but it's not quite as significant development as the last two that were more developed. I would say this one is probably a little bit further developed than this other one, but didn't get quite as far as these other two. You can kind of start seeing a little bit of feathering, but I don't even see that yolk is like way more prominent in this one because the chick isn't filling the shell as much as the others. So alright, so this is kind of like really similar to the second one that we opened. It's developed, but not as far as it should be. So where you can look in and see a lot of that yolk, that means that that chick hasn't developed to fill the space around it. And so this one was an early stage that stopped developing. So that kind of gives me a little bit more peace of mind that, you know, it wasn't something to do with the incubator temperature or humidity or something like that, because it looks like these 3 out of our 5 eggs, that these 3 right here were the ones that stopped developing a little earlier than what it would have been viable to hatch. And then these 2 were ones that were way further developed and stopped within the last few days before hatch. So of all of these eggs, these 2 were probably the only ones that could have something to do with humidity or incubation temperature or air cell development, whereas the rest of these, they just stopped developing, which sometimes that can happen. And then I don't know how you guys like to do your hatches, but I like to catalog all of the shells that the chicks have hatched from, and so I like to line them all up and take a picture, so then I can remember exactly what chicks hatch out of what shells. Oh, these are super brittle, so super careful. And now that our incubator is done, we moved our chicks over to the tabletop. They're a little scared of me. That's why they're all hiding in the corner. But I tried putting a white lamp in just for filming, and of course it immediately burnt out. So a little bit of washed out with the red, but I can shut it off and like show you what the chicks look like real quick. They'll be okay for a few seconds. So I always make sure that my chicks start off on the right foot, and that's usually putting a few things in their water. So we put in apple cider vinegar, raw apple cider vinegar, and then we put a little bit of garlic in their water. So the mixture I do is I take a clove and I crush it, and then I let it kind of just steep in a cup of water, and then that is what I use as my concentrate. So then once that has steeped in that cup of water, you'll use a tablespoon of that concentrate per gallon, and then the same is going to go for your raw apple cider vinegar. It's going to be 1 tablespoon to 1 gallon. And then with this batch of chicks, that little chick that I showed you that hatched, that had the issue with its neck, that can happen. It's not really usually too big of a deal. I have just little vitamin E soft gels, so I just poked a hole in it, and I also just squeezed one of those in their water and mixed it up, and I made sure that that chick got plenty of drinks of water assisted because he needed help to dip his head. And now you can't even tell that chick apart from any of the others because all he needed was a little bit of vitamin E. That's the conclusion of our incubation series. Thanks for coming with us, and thanks for joining us through our video series. If you have any questions, you can always comment below. And hopefully you enjoyed this series and that you maybe learned a little bit of something. And we wish you the best of luck hatching out your chicken eggs. So stay tuned. We'll have some more updates with our farm for our baby goats. They are actually due anytime now. So we will be having new videos coming up about our baby goats.